when they took their class picture, he was the only black person there, but that's not what he saw. All he saw was scientists. He didn't see a black one or an Indian one or a white one. All he saw was scientists. And having that mindset, it is, as I said, just kind of sad that we have to put a color designation on it. But this all stems back to the early 50s, when the Comic Code Authority was first initiated. There was a comic book company called EC Comics that had a story to come out, and the story focused on an astronaut who left the planet Earth. And when he returned to Earth, at the end of the story, it had him take his helmet off. And when he took his helmet off, the astronaut turned out to be black. But the Comic Code Authority did not like that image of a black astronaut. So when the issues were reprinted, they had them change the color of the astronaut to white. So from that one instance, which is over 60 years ago, we have come to the point where we have the designation of black sci-fi and sci-fi.
And that's interesting, and we're going to definitely get into that because, again, black sci-fi is actually a new terminology. You know, when we talk about science fiction, fantasy, you can almost go back to Aesop fables. People have said even stories in the Bible are fantastic in a speculative way, right? But since, I would say, it's not Barack Obama's presidency, but somewhere around the 2000s, Octavia Butler being a strong pioneer in the 90s, the terminology of black science fiction has popped up. Now we also have African science fiction. And I think that puts an interesting dynamic. And we're going to talk about that because I think that's very interesting. I like what you're saying. I don't disagree, but there's amendments that I would like to make to how you feel about that.
How I feel about sci-fi.
And your work. Oh, did you talk about how your work is it? Your work is Sword and Soul, but you've also written horror. And all of that is still sci-fi. And before I get to you.
Well, to me, horror and science fiction are two different things.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Because you don't have to have any type of science to be horrific.
No, you don't. You know, and the reason why I think they get so confused is what is the earliest science fiction work? Who gets credit for creating the genre? Who gets credit for creating horror genre? Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And both genres or literary categories get credit for that and can take credit because it was not a story about a monster who ended up becoming scary, but it was really about a mad scientist, runaway science, and being careful. It was a cautionary tale. So yes, there is a separation between the two, but a lot of scientists argue that, you know, what is today's unknown is provable by tomorrow's science. So a lot of things that we thought were magic and horror were just unknown sciences. So the two do merge, and I probably can produce some examples of that, but let me hear how your work, how you describe your work and get into it.
Well, I describe my work in sci-fi. I do call it sci-fi, but a lot of times I put a twist on it, like urban sci-fi.
Okay.
I like to use the terminology urban sci-fi due to the fact that a lot of it comes from just, how can I say, growing up in like the streets. And I mean, you see some horrific things just growing up in the streets.
And what streets are you talking? Where are you from?
Well, I grew up in the Fort Pierce on the East Coast area, Melbourne, Florida, all that area, stuff like that.
We got to give shout out to them.
Yeah.
We don't deny any of that.
But when I started writing, it just started out as something to do. As far as it going into science fiction, I also liked reading comic books when I was growing up. So I looked at it from the point of if Spider-Man, Peter Parker had those same kind of issues, I could tell it from another perspective, somebody else living in a different neighborhood. Everybody don't live in New York. to understand what he's going through. So I'll tell you how it is from my perspective, growing up in the South. So it was totally something different.
And I just say your accent totally froze me because you said New York just like a New Yorker would say.
Yeah.
So, you feel me on that, right? Yeah. You know.
I'm not from New York.
Okay. Now you feel a little bit more Wu-Tang.
But the whole thing, my sci-fi and black sci-fi, I don't like to put like say the whole spectrum of color because I don't want just black people to enjoy my sci-fi. I want everybody to enjoy it because I'm a creator. I don't create stuff just for black or white, Hispanic. I create my sci-fi for everybody to enjoy. If you see a lot of my art, everybody be like, oh, you do black comic books. Well, of course I'm black.
Right.
So a lot of my art, a lot of my characters are black, but I could give it to you from a black perspective. But I also have white characters. I have Native American. I have Latino. I get it from everybody's perspective. You know what I'm saying? If I know that person, a lot of my characters are created from actual real people that I know. So that gives me a ground to build off of instead of just sitting there coming up with, oh, I need to be like this, I need to be like this. I already have characteristics and standards and stuff that's set from that person that I build off of that I like about that person in order to create that character. So if that person's white, black, blue, or green, then that's the color they come out to be, and that's how I create it. And I just build on from that. My science, I do have some horror stuff, and like I was explaining to one of the people who came to my table, that story wrote itself. I didn't mean for it to come out to be horror, but
right.
with a little evil-looking girl with 3 like little dolls with like creatures living inside of them, I guess that would be considered horror if she had those dolls come and tear you apart. So that's horror. It was a story. So it got categorized as horror, but for me, it was just a good story of vengeance.
Something that was in
Yeah, it's just something that
you know, and I definitely like what you said in terms of the urban element of it. One of the things that I really don't get anymore, kind of since Black Panther came out, is who do you write for? You know, you are black sci-fi, you know, I have to be black to read it. And I say, well, recently I just saw Downton Abbey, right? And you can't get too much European or English or British than that. And I enjoyed it, you know.
You really watched that?
I did. Wow. And then I followed it up yesterday and I saw Ed Astor with Brad Pitt. Yeah, and that was okay. I like that better. But I'm a big fan of Kung Fu movies, okay? I just binged on the first 4 episodes of Wu-Tang Clan. And of course they must watch Kung Fu movies too, because they named the group Wu-Tang. And you're not looking at a diverse movie genre. There's not a black person, there's not a white person. Sometimes they go up against Indian, you know, but they don't have it. And for that notion that monocultural stories, which even I don't write, most of my stories are multicultural, are for that particular culture alone, is to say I should not have ever watched science fiction or read it. But I did enjoy it, and I think my stuff opens that up for other people to enjoy it. Because look, like I said, I enjoyed Downton Abbey, in a variety of them. What we're seeing now is everybody's rushing to be multicultural.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that either. But for stories that in subgenres that are black sci-fi or from another culture, Asian sci-fi, look, I like Godzilla, there wasn't nobody in that. You know, even the aliens, they were Asian, you know, Chinese people, and that was fantastic. And nobody says don't bring that movie to America, you know, so it's not anti. Now, my first question goes to something that was really popping this week on social media, and we're talking to black creators. These are all writers, creators here on this panel. So there was this meme that came up with Denzel, and I don't know if anybody saw it, but it was on social media. It was in the comic groups. I think it hit. What's the one of the big magazines, Geek something? One of the big magazines was on their site. And they said, oh, they're going to do that. Now, even since I put this together, they're rumored to be approaching another black actor to play Professor Xavier.
Wow.
So not only will you have Magneto, you'll have Professor Xavier. And how do you guys feel about that? I'll tell my comments, my opinions later, but let's break it up. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Alright, I've been reading comic books for a long time, and I believe in continuity. And because I believe in the continuity, then when you make changes to characters as far as their race, then that means you scrub out all the history that has come before. Now, I'm not so stiff in my belief that I can't adjust, but why not just create a new character? Because we're savvy enough now where we can put together a backstory that would match in the same continuity. But why make Professor Xavier black? Because now everything that he went through to become what he was, all of the experiences now are erased. Now, instead of being the person who did the traveling and came across the Shadow King when he first met Storm, all that other history, all that is gone, just so you can make him black.
And I think the argument is not just Denzel, is that Denzel played the iconic civil rights leader, Malcolm X. And the rumor was that they had already based Magneto on Malcolm X and Professor Xavier on Dr. King.
Yeah, they based off the friendship.
Right.
That was dispelled.
And that was dispelled, but yet the rumor is still out there. And for the record, I don't think this was a black creator's idea. I think it came from somewhere else, maybe Marvel, but I don't think it came from a black. Now, some of the other images that you see on here, yeah, black artists may have done it, but I forgot the name of the gentleman, the writer after Stan Lee. He actually did say he took some influence from Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but on an additional other people. It wasn't only them. So, but I think that's where it comes from. It's not just that because it could have been Idris Elba, right? But it wasn't Idris Elba. They put Denzel in there because Denzel played Malcolm.
But they
so now what did you think?
They took it from using Malcolm and Martin because Malcolm, the ideology they got from it was Malcolm was by any means necessary.
Right.
That was the same way Magneto attitude towards mutants, the same way Malcolm was towards black. Malcolm was to black, and Xavier was more like, let's be peaceful, let's move in this direction. And so that's where they got the whole Malcolm and Martin thing going back and forth between Professor Xavier and Magneto. But as far as doing the making them black and everything, no, I say no. Leave them with their stories. Marvel has great other black characters in their bundle that they can grow and develop into even good, better characters and put them on the forefront, take them from C class to B class, because I don't know if everybody remember or not, Avengers, Iron Man was not a A-lister in the comic books at first. Avengers wasn't all that great. The two big running was Spider-Man and X-Men. Right. But it took them to
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and Fantastic Four, the first family, you know what I'm saying? So it took them to bring those guys up front. So for Marvel to take that gamble on the Avengers and Iron Man and them and put them in the forefront, and now they, super mega billionaires. They got all of my money off of every movie. But it was
good movies, though.
Yeah, it was good movies. Don't get me wrong. And I appreciate how they did it. It was good. And growing up, every time you open a comic book, you wanted that character to move.
Of course.
You know, the cartoon was cool, but to make it look real life, and you got somebody to play that, and to put in your mind like, oh snap, I can actually Iron Man probably flying around and land somewhere. That was incredible. But as far as the race swapping and everything, I say stop and give new characters, or take characters that are already present and just put them in the forefront, make their story a little bit better. Like people always talk about one of the Black Panther was one of the first Blade actually launched the MCU.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And what was Blade? Blade was not even a C. I think he was like D.
He was a daywalker, but it was a black
Yeah,
character.
but it's a black character.
You know, and I'm on both sides, right? I've seen it done well. Like,
Yeah.
I really like Miles Morales. Right?
That's cool. I like Miles Morales.
And I like what Miles Morales did to the conversation, because Miles Morales created lanes. Once you open up the multiverse.
Yeah, but they did the multiverse.
Right. Once you open up the multiverse, which is supposed to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that includes now the Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, because now with what happened with Thanos, the multiverse has now been shattered.
Yeah.
The problem I had is, one, I do agree with you both, that it is a lack of creativity.
Exactly.
We have like comic book conventions. Heck, we had Static Shock, who's probably overdue for a movie, and he's totally in his own lane. They created a milestone, a whole way that mutants were created that doesn't compete with anybody. Even though DC bought him, and now he's in the DC universe, he still is somebody that can, be perpetuated. I think it's lazy, while I do like Miles Morales, and he wouldn't have come if it wasn't for, Black Superman, Black Spider-Man, and then they create him. But they actually did what Marcus was talking about, where they created his own backstory.
Yeah.
And they made it urban, right? The problem I had is this new Spider-Man took Miles Morales' universe. He took everything all the way down to the Legos that his best friend, the heavy kid, was building. Yeah. So if you if you enjoyed Miles Morales maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they jacked his backstory to expand and create a new Spider-Man. So I don't know what to say. I don't also take issue with the Malcolm X analogy, because Malcolm X, in the sense of what violence is, and my son's name is Malcolm, right?
Of course.
Okay, and my father tells me the time when he met Malcolm, he was so nervous he almost ran him over, and I'm from Harlem, so that's the energy. So I've been listening to a lot of debates long before this, not just about Magneto, but about Malcolm and violence. And he was a nonviolent person.
Yeah.
Not to mention his organization at the time he was Malcolm X, he was in it. The Nation of Islam is nonviolent. They don't even vote, right? So for Magneto to be aligned with Malcolm is really a disservice to Malcolm. He didn't even march. He didn't do any of that. The iconic picture that you see here with him out holding the gun, that was to defend his house.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going out with it. If anything, you could do the Black Panthers, right? You could do it with other groups. But that's just my personal opinion. I think if anything, Malcolm X was probably more like Professor Xavier, because all he did was debate people and get you to think and change your opinion. And that was it. And even when he said by any means necessary, that was a way to defend himself from people who wanted him to denounce Dr. King.
Yeah.
And he said, they were asking, what do you think about Dr. King and protesting? Well, those black people are crazy, aren't they? He said, I believe any means necessary. And that was a political answer. But now we've taken it as a threat. He was saying, y'all better deal with Dr. King. Y'all produced that. Y'all are the ones that's using the hoses and stuff. Whatever comes, that's all on y'all. I'm not responding, but that's how his response was. So anybody else, anything else you want to add on that? You had anything? All right, we'll go. And again, we're always open for questions from the audience. So I see you all paying attention. If anything gets your attention, please let us know. Now, the other thing was pretty much, I think we touched on it a little bit, but we're still dealing with change, right? Yeah. This new television show, Carnival Row.
I seen like, I binged like the first 4 episodes.
Okay, well you're aware. Are you aware of it?
Yeah.
Okay. I watched it and I did not know that it was an H.P. Lovecraft story. And I didn't know it came from H.P. Lovecraft universe. When we talk about changes, I actually approve of this change. I did not know H.P. Lovecraft was as racist as the internet and things came out. I don't have time. I'm not preoccupied with people's racism. I kind of steer myself away from it. But people who had won the Hugo Award, the Top Science Fiction Writers Award, that's his pick. That's his statue. They get that. They get that trophy. And maybe about 7 years ago, I think the first black person. No, Linda Addison won it for poetry, and then David Anthony Durham won it. Then N.K. Jameson, and then Ende Okafor. And Ende Okafor, who wrote Bindi, kind of took offense, right? She said, I don't even want the trophy. Something like that, I'm not sure. But all of them have had a problem with the trophy because he's so racist. And when you see Carnival Row and how they changed the analogy, it would have been really foul if it wasn't changed. And they would have just made it like black people, and oh my God, it would have been like the most racist thing. So how do you feel about updating things based on eliminating the racism element? How did you feel about Carnival Row? Did you know it was racist when you first watched it?
I knew who the author was. I knew what the talk around the author.
Yeah, I knew that too.
So it was what I would expect from an author whose work is racist.
Do you think they should have changed it?
If they wanted it to have any type of appeal, yeah, they had.
I don't know. Maybe as racist, it probably might have appealed to some small niche group in America. You know, there's still racists around. It's not like we live in, kumbaya world. But I'm pretty sure there's somebody. But
what they did was they changed it to classism.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And classism is a softer racism because anyone could be in a lower class, no matter what their race is, and anyone can be in the upper class, which they were trying to portray that when they had the what's the
Ram?
Yeah, the Ram.
Yeah, the Ram. But they were multicultural. Even the winged fairies was everybody. It wasn't a clear, but the classism. Yes,
and that's what I'm saying. It was more classism because
girls
they made it
found
multicultural because you had
then he rammed it though.
the different
I'm sorry.
the different races of fairies, and you had the different races. So making it about classism, it softens the racist blow.
Is that how you feel? Did you? Because I mean, y'all both took strong stances on the previous question. Don't make Magneto black, right? But if he's white, that messes up everything. But now, when they multiculturalize this racist world and change it from necessarily race to class, that's okay.
It's still not okay, but in the form of, like I said, from to put it out now in this day and age. You got to change it up because everybody is so, how can I say, super hypersensitive, you know what I'm saying, about everything, pronouns and all this other stuff and everything, stuff like that, instead of just addressing people as people.
Right.
Like my mom used to tell me, just be nice.
Right.
Somebody be all crazy towards you, still walk off and just try to be nice, treat people as people. If somebody come up to me, I don't care what your color, race, creed, what you are today, what's your pronoun, whatever, however. You come to me and you address me as a person, I'm gonna speak back to you as a nice person.
And that's kind of the way I feel it should have always been, however, we don't want to forget our past, right?
Right.
That's true.
And if this was something that was in the past, I like that they did that. But I feel bad that he's still benefiting from it. You understand what I'm saying? It's like they took his racist record and remixed it, and he's still getting the royalties from it. So I felt, if anything, I don't even want to deal with it. There's still a lot of older properties that, because if it didn't have that Cthulhu type character,
Like Dagon.
right, it wouldn't have been Lovecraft. It could have been on its own. It could have been Bright with Will Smith.
Oh, no.
You know what I'm saying? That was horrible, but it still dealt with a universe that was very similar.
That was just bad.
No, and I get you.
I like Bright.
I didn't think it was that bad.
It wasn't bad. They didn't set it up.
I like.
Right.
They just brought you in and just like, you went bright.
You know what it reminded me
Once I
of?
got an understanding as to, we're off topic.
No, it's still
once I got an
relative, because I'm bringing
understanding
another
as
problem.
to where, what universe that it was coming out of, then everything made total sense.
You know what?
Right.
Did you see the TV show with Jessica Alba, Dark Angel?
Dark Angel, I remember that.
So that to me reminded me of Bright. It also reminds me of Old Town in Killjoys. If you watch Killjoys, there are different characters in there, even though they don't play central roles.
Yeah.
It's still different types of characters. So what I like about Carnival Row is that they did give a good history, and you got some teeth in there.
Yeah,
Classes.
so if you didn't know what was going on, they didn't do all that. They rushed it in Bright. They tried.
It was a hustle film.
Yeah, it was like we got to squeeze all this in there and think that if you don't know about elves and trolls and all this other stuff.
And they tried to do it with gang violence.
Yeah, and it's like you don't push on it. Now, if they would have broken it down into like a mini series and
Right.
built up to it, it would have been.
It took some time.
It took some time to develop the characters and stuff. Only person you really knew is Will Smith and
his partner.
Dude was eating a sandwich or something on the side and he got shot and it was like you weren't paying attention.
Right.
You know, it's like, what? So, and then you don't learn a little bit more until it gets further down in the story. But it's like, that should have been like episode 1. And then elaborate a little bit more in episode 2, a little bit more in episode 3. Spread it out more. Get maybe a mini series or something like Stranger Things.
Of course.
Now, going back to what you were saying earlier in terms of trying to please fans, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get into that. That's one of the next questions, super fans. But you were talking about trying to update something just to please fans and maybe make another point, right? Kind of taking an existing property and saying, you really had a good point, whether it was racist or not, now let's make more sense out of it. Well, then there's my favorite analogy, took the race out and put another one in when they remade Planet of the Apes.
Of course.
And I like both of them. I like the animal rights version that we're dealing with now, and I like the racism version with Charlton Heston that they did back in the 70s. How do y'all feel about something like that? You know, are you Planet of the Apes fans?
I remember the Charlton Heston version, and I like the new updated version too with Caesar. That was
Yes.
powerful. Caesar was
I've seen that.
That was good. I mean, I like the story.
We're gonna need the Mark Wahlberg one.
Yeah, we don't
That bow your heads. Yo, God.
That was
Rest in peace, Michael Clark Duncan, but we're gonna pass over that.
But the way they rewrote and did Caesar in that one, it was spectacular. But you said the whole thing of like racist stuff, and they swapped it around. It was kind of still there, but it was more like I said with the animal rights thing
Yes.
and everything. But it's like sometimes it seems like they try to force. I think like this diversity shouldn't be forced.
Well, Planet of the Apes was about race. It was a direct analogy, so you don't have to force it.
No, but I'm just saying, in a lot of
In
things,
other stuff.
In other stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
With that, they did it, and it was presented in a way that was pleasant, kind of to the palate. We still got what you meant,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And they presented it in a way. But a lot of stuff now they try to do, like you said, even with Miles Morales. With Miles Morales, yeah, they brought him in, but they still had Peter Parker there. Peter Parker had died, so we know that Ray Spider-Man was there, and he took over from there, and then he created his own story.
And then the movie is where they got the multiverse.
Yeah, and with
Because
the
in the comic book,
yeah.
it didn't. But comic book had a clear lane.
Yeah.
Spider-Man had clearly died because they were following that Superman trope. That Superman had died a few years before, so it's like, all right, let's kill Spider-Man. And then, you know, you had Steel rise up, you had all these other people take the Superman mantle, and it gave them a chance to explore some different angles. But same thing they tried to do, it just so happened that they did a really good job, with Miles Morales, and people was like, yo, we need him to stick around, you know? Yes, question in the back.
Do you think that Miles Morales was done better in the comics or in the movie animated?
I fell in love with the comic version. However, I think if I can totally put the comic out of my mind, I will like the one with more hip hop and more elements to it in the movie. So I'm gonna go with the movie over it, but I did not dislike the comic book. So it's like a 9.9 and a 10.
I like the comic better. because with the comic, the creator, Brian Bendis, at this time Marvel had a totally separate universe. It had the same characters, but these characters behaved differently. That's where you get the black Nick Fury from. Nick Fury in this other universe was black. Some other characters, their behaviors and characteristics were totally different than what you would get from the main Marvel. So when they did Miles Morales, their whole point was they needed a Spider-Man that was different from the Spider-Man that was currently in the Marvel universe, because the Spider-Man that was, even in this other universe, it still mirrored that Spider-Man from the main universe. So with Miles Morales, you had something different, you had something fresh, you had something updated, because, let's face it, Peter Parker came out in the 60s.
Yeah.
So now you had this kid that came out in the 90s, that his trials and tribulations as a teenager were totally different than what Peter Parker experienced in the 60s and 70s as a teenager. So they updated the character totally. But in updating that character, they made Miles Morales actually more relatable than Peter Parker, because Peter Parker had become an icon. Spider-Man in the main universe is an icon. Yeah. This other kid, Miles Morales, he's trying to get his feet wet. He's trying to get himself established. In the comic books, they had the big Secret Wars, Secret Wars 2. And Secret Wars 2, they totally destroyed every alternate universe of the Marvel universe and brought all those characters. They got rid of characters and brought all these characters into the main Marvel universe. That's why now you have Peter Parker and you have Miles Morales, both in the main universe. But Miles still, to me, in the comic books, is a lot cooler. I enjoyed the movie, the animated film, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that. I always enjoyed the animation things, but I'm a hardcore comic book guy. And there's stuff that he went through in the comic books in the Ultimate Universe that they just won't do in the animation because it's too gritty.
Right. Well, yeah, because it has a G rating, a PG.
And like I said, once it goes back to you got to please your audience, so that's for kids.
Right.
But see, that's the thing. Like you said, it's for kids. But Miles Morales in the comic book was not for kids. They tell you his uncle, the Prowler, his uncle, the criminal. Yeah.
But again, all comic books and books in general don't always have ratings. So that's a big bubble, that we won't even deal with. That's a whole nother topic. How the same story can go into a comic book, doesn't have a rating, and then when it goes to a film, it's all rated.
But that's just been taken from book to film.
Right.
They changed up.
Same thing. Yes. Oh, go ahead.
I know the biggest change to me that I actually like that they did in an animated film is that the way that they changed the uncle a lot, like they actually kind of changed his personality to be more like loving than he was in like the thing. Yeah. He was more like kind of like pushing Miles to become a bad guy in the comics. I really didn't like that, in all honesty. I thought they were like a better bond, and I like seeing it animated like as an actual bond, and how there's two sides of the same coin where his dad is loving but strict, but his uncle is.
Yeah, I like that too. Kind of get you a little bit of understanding why he did what he did, as opposed to in the comic book, they didn't really just like evil and bad is always hard to portray.
It's great.
Because even like you take Thanos, it's hard to say he's just bad. He's just a person that wants to do something good. There's a different. He's an extremist. Okay. Yeah. Let's move to the next question. Oh yeah.
Yeah, to back up a little bit from what you were talking about earlier, we're looking at now, maybe within the next 5 years, getting an X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic.
Phase 4. Oh, sorry.
Phase 4, Phase 5, whatever.
Yeah, whatever phase.
And
Mark,
I've actually heard some rumors that that Marvel might be sort of feeling out Giancarlo Esposito as Magneto.
I think there's a lot of, it's like She-Hulks. They had like 12 different actresses rumored to play She-Hulk. I actually think sometimes with that, they're testing us.
Yeah, and
to see which one we will react to, right?
But considering we're so far removed from Magneto's origin story, a reinvention here for mutants, and they have to do it, is probably, now would be the time if they were gonna move in a direction like Jean Carroll.
I agree, but when people ask me about the Denzel and Malcolm X, I said, Magneto was never as Jewish as my friends, you know, 'cause he didn't care anything about what was going on in Israel. And if he was a real Jewish superhero, he would have done something over in the Middle East. But that's a whole nother conversation. But again, if we're talking, like, for instance, if he was Malcolm X, then we would almost feel the need for him to have to be aware of the racial climate in America.
Yeah.
Whereas as a Jewish Magneto, which he was just Jewish light, you know. He wasn't really a Jewish person. He was just Jewish by heritage. Only in the Days of Future Past,
Yeah.
or which one was it, where he went back and
When they would show
his origin
story.
yeah.
right? Was he able to
Actually,
do
the
something?
beginning of the first X-Men.
Right.
Yeah.
When he was able to do something as a Jewish person. So if they keep it the way he was originally in the first 3 X-Men movies, then it almost doesn't matter what his history is, because he's not going to pay attention to his race.
But he
He's
wasn't-
more.
I'm just talking about how that if he were that Magneto was in a concentration camp and lost his parents,
Right.
that you'd be 90 years old.
Oh, well, that too, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
But I don't
now
think
this
he was more on the Jewish tip of that. He was more his Jewish people. His people was mutants.
Right.
So that he didn't color. He didn't care
I'm
what your
not-
color
I'm
was.
not-
He was
I'm not
mutant.
gonna ever
Yeah.
let this happen again.
Yeah. I'm not letting it happen again to any other mutants. It wasn't just Jewish people. He was just about it. If you were a mutant, if you were born with special people, with special powers, abilities, something like that, you should not be pointed out for that, nothing like that. He believed that they were the second coming, like, you know, we're the evolution, we're the next coming of version of man and stuff. That's what it was. It wasn't we're Jewish, you're black, you're white.
Right.
No, we mutants. We stick together. We run the spot. So
I think
that's how
I think he's an amazing actor. Who will be an actor.
Yeah, and if they do,
Yeah, well, I agree. I like that. However, I'm a little bit like Marcus. We don't have to change everybody.
No.
I think I think even harder than it is to think of a black superhero, because we've got a whole bunch of black creators. I think it is harder to find a Latino, Native American. They have a Native American convention out in Arizona. I think those superheroes were even more. You think about how they did Black Panther and Jungle Action. When you start looking at Native American superheroes, they might as well just call them the Redskins, man. You know, because they have done a really bad job, you know, of racism. Same thing they're having problems
You
with.
didn't like Don McGregor's run and Jungle Action. You didn't like his stories.
I just say it wasn't as bad, but when we talk about even the Asian American superheroes, the Asian superheroes, they have to change those. They are getting heat from, what was the one the lady just left? Crazy Rich Asians writer, she just left some project. They're becoming more sensitive, like all of these. Let's get to the next question. You'll see.
Yeah, but like I said, that forced diversity is just let it happen.
All right, I'm gonna go to this question, and I'll go back. All right, since we're talking about the impact of fans, we just had an incident of epic fanal proportion, right? With Walter Mosley, great writer, a devil in a blue dress. He was writing Star Trek Discovery. He was in the writer's room, and he pretty much shouted him out as being almost like a Noah's Ark of diversity. And he quit on some hypersensitivity stuff. He was talking about how he had gotten pulled over by the police officer, and the police officer used the N-word, and he didn't say N-word, he used the actual word. And they said, oh my God, you can't say the N-word in this meeting room, you know? And so they reprimanded him, and he said, I'm out of here, I ain't got time for all this. And then people attacked Star Trek Discovery. It was a trickle. But you have to accept that Star Trek has been a brand that has been in battle with their fans ever since J.J. Abrams poured more salt on the open wound with his rebranding of Star Trek.
Or remake.
Rebranding, remake, all of that stuff. I love them. I hate Star Trek fans hate me, but I consider myself a Star Trek fan because I love them all. I even love Orville. But, okay, that's what I am. Okay, I like it. I like all of them, and I watch all of them. But can we get, any of you would like to talk about the impact of Superfans? You mentioned it a little bit when you were talking about catering to the fans.
Yeah.
And we just talked about it with Carnival Row. It was definitely better that they took the racism out, but that wasn't because they may have not been racist themselves, but they knew they had to please more people. So what do you think about the super fan, the impact of fans? Is it good? Is it bad?
It's like this. How do you become famous? Your fans make you famous.
Of course.
If you don't have fans, you're not famous. If you could run fast as I don't know what. If nobody know you can do that and don't nobody say nothing about it, they're like, that's
no.
good, dude.
I'm gonna give you a minute. There's another word that's not famous. That's called infamous. And that means you're famous, but nobody likes you.
Yes, but
so
you'll still get a fan following.
Right.
You'll still get a fan following.
But you don't have to please people.
Exactly.
It's like, Dennis Rodman, who was on 30 for 30, he was like, I like my place in celebrityism because I'm not like Michael Jordan. I don't have to do anything to please people. People already accept me the way that I am. And, it's just accept that we will never vote for you for president. Bill Bradley, when I was in New Jersey, he was our governor, okay? Because that people liked him. There's nobody gonna vote for Dennis Rodman for anything, not sanitation director. Well, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about super fans? Are they good? Are they bad? What do you think?
Well, I think fanatical behavior and passion goes hand in hand. So when you're passionate about something, then you tend to be fanatical. In an industry where if you want to make money, you have to have people buying your product, then you learn to cater to the consumer.
Of course.
So putting all that together, you got the
unless you're
passionate
Prince
person.
or Jimi Hendrix, who
Yeah.
said we just make music and if you like it, you buy it.
But putting all that together, having the passionate people that are the consumers that you want to get the money from, that will engage in fanatical behavior. I mean, you need them. You're not gonna hear a lot of people say this, but you need them. You need that person that's going to take his shirt off and stand in the cold with your name written on it, out there saying, "Go!" You need that.
You need that beehive, Beyonce, right?
You need that. What would
Lady
Beyonce
Gaga
be without her beehive?
Of course.
I mean,
A
really,
beehive.
because it is her fans now
Strike.
that are drawing and bringing fans in, not necessarily her, but the popularity of being in the beehive. So the popularity of being a fan of something, it often drives that product. I know a lot of people who never read an Avengers comic book in their life.
Of course.
But they are fans because they know people who are fans. People are fans of his characters. I have some artwork that he does. It's on my son's wall. People are his fans because I'm his fan. They have never seen anything else but that one picture that I'm a fan of. But because I'm a fan, they're a fan. I have Jeff's book. People are a fan of Jeff because I'm a fan of Jeff. So the super fan, you need the super fan. Because that super fan is what attracts other fans.
You know what? Part of why I think I can make these panels always so provocative is because I am an overly compensating Gemini, right? I see both sides of the subject all the time. And while I fully understand what you're saying, when I think about the future of Star Trek, I can't help but think that the fans are negatively impacting that brand's future. They are not letting it grow. They are in denial about what it's about. They want it to be some pseudoscience. And I have a friend that's an ultra Star Trek fan. And I always say to him, do you remember the time they went to the Wild Wild West? Do you remember the time they went to the Greek gods?
Yeah.
That's not space exploration. That's Western interpretation of futuristic Western history. You know, and I don't dislike it, but let's not get confused about it. So while I accept that the Beehive is powerful, Kim Kardashian's, whatever it is, she's got.
She got a plastic eye.
Right, whatever they are. And then they even found out a lot of those are fake Twitters, and they bought those followers. So sometimes the fans aren't even as big as what they think. I go back to the squeaky wheel gets the oil analogy and my dislike for that. Because sometimes if I'm happy, I'm not even gonna say anything. But you got two people that are unhappy, and now you're listening and you're now catering your brand to the two people that are outspoken and frustrated. Whereas if you were a real mechanic, you take your car and do a proper diagnostics, and you wouldn't listen to the squeaky wheel, and you would then be able to find out the status of your car, or in this case, your brand. So I don't like that necessarily because, and maybe I can't think of one right now, I'm just thinking of Star Trek, but I do think
Because that's a bad analogy, in the fact that no matter how
or where it goes,
those fans feel, it's still wrong. They still do it.
Yeah, but
Because
I don't even know if it's
because
going to
it's
go
about consumerism. Consumerism is what drives things.
And consumerism sometimes can ruin things too.
Of
You know,
course.
I think of music
This
too.
analogy.
Okay.
In the 40s, there was a comic book company, all Negro comics. First of its kind, it showed the power of black consumerism in comic books. Other companies saw this, so they said, okay, look, we got to shut this comic book company down. And as soon as they had this comic book company shut down, they started bringing out comic books with black characters because they saw the consumerism.
So is that good?
They saw. We're not talking good or bad.
Well, I am.
We're talking consumerism because we're in an industry where we're trying to sell stuff.
Yeah, you got it.
Now,
Yeah, but again,
Now,
your
and-
analogy will
and-
take
and-
us out of it and have our
the Star Trek
products
people,
done by them.
The Star Trek people, they really don't care whether you as a fan approve of their Western shows. Them going on the planet takes them back into the Western not.
Right.
The thing is, you're gonna either say something good about it or bad about it, but you're gonna get it. Consumerism. Consumerism is not good or bad. Consumerism is consumerism. There's no such thing as bad consumerism. There's no such thing as bad making money. Making money is making money.
Okay.
And ultimately, that's what it is about.
I'll disagree with you
the
and raise you
simple
on
fact-
Kyle Rain. I'll raise you a Jar Jar Binks, right?
Oh, you
I'm
know
just gonna
that.
say,
Oh.
no, we talking about consumerism.
That's true.
And Star Wars is bigger than Star Trek, even though Star Trek's movies have outpaced it. The brand of Star Wars is bigger. And why do I say that? It's important, well, why, or relative to the conversation, is because fans, they received a lot of backlash from Jar Jar Binks, right?
But they still
and
bought his toy.
right, but they had to change and rewrite his importance in the universe because of it. It may not have stopped the brand, but it certainly altered the brand. Same thing I feel with Finn, right? You know,
In the current Star
right? He
Wars.
had to become more than a space janitor, right? So I think that and then I may think of a brand that was totally ruined by fan rejection, but we may not know it. I don't know if it's Jupiter Ascending or Valkyrie or something.
Jupiter Ascending.
Some of them were just straight trash to begin with,
Yeah.
you know. Which one?
DCEU.
Okay, yeah. So
CONE.
Suicide Squad is still coming back. So sometimes the fans are important, and the difference between fame and infamy does separate the continuation of it, you know. So we'll see. Let me go to a previous question. We got like 5 minutes to see if I can get one in. This is just to build on what we were talking about before. Let me get something resolved so we can close this panel out. Indy Okafor, her picture there with the H.P. Lovecraft, and I think she was the last one to get the H.P. Lovecraft bust before they turned it into a dragon. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I can't, because it was only, if it was just last year. So the change is new, because this year's hasn't been awarded yet. It's in November. Okay, so with Indy Okafor, she not only took issue with H.P. Lovecraft's statue, she also took issue with being called Black Sci-Fi.
Of course.
Or, in a more affectionate term, taken from Sun Ra in music, Afrofuturistic. Afrofuturism. She said, I'm from Africa. My parents are from Nigeria. I am an African sci-fi writer. Call me such. So she doesn't just not want to be called Afrofuturist or Black sci-fi or science fiction writer. She wants to be recognized for her continental alliance. Because she's not even saying I'm a Nigerian sci-fi writer. She said African in a very almost condescending way. You know, I didn't necessarily take too much offense to it, but had she said it to me in person, I might have been like, whoa, pump your brakes. You know, we're cousins, okay? Relax, okay? But are you all aware of that conversation that was also going on?
My whole thing still spills back to this. If you're a sci-fi writer, you're a sci-fi writer. If you read my stories and you never knew who or what my skin color was, you still be like, hey, that guy, he writes good
But
sci-fi.
you're from where?
I'm Bahamian though.
Okay.
So should I put Bahamian comics? I got Bahamian comics.
Okay, but wait, how did you?
I just want you to read my comics.
How did you get to the Bahamas? I'm saying.
But yeah, you come through way from the Bahamas because that's one of the ports where they dropped slaves
So
off.
you're still part of the African diaspora.
You are, but after that happened, everybody took on that concept. We are the Bahamas. We are the islands, just like Jamaica. If that's the fact, you should call everywhere all those ports was at from where they dropped off slaves and stuff. That still should have been Africa then, you know what I'm saying? But they took on this is where we are. We took on the identity. So we're Bahamian, you got Puerto Rican, you got Jamaican, you got Haitian Republic, Haitian, all of that. So is it come down to the fact that we always got to announce who we are, or you like my writing, you like my art? Thank you. I'm an artist. That's why, if that's the fact, I should have put on here, Marvin McDonald. I'm a Bahamian creator, a Bahamian artist. Bahamian.
6'5".
You don't need to know all that. Just, if you like my stuff, you like my stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
But you should
much.
but you should put it on there because like I was over in Germany, being over in Germany and traveling through the European continent.
Keep showing up.
That's all right.
The one thing
It's
that,
on his resume.
It's on his resume.
the one thing that was dualistic to me was being with other Americans, being identified as black, but being in Europe and being identified as American.
Right.
And
So you
having
felt
that
the
dualism.
racial pride and the nationality pride.
And this is the point where she is coming from. She is African. She wants
That-
people to know.
Because that's not a nation, that's more like continental pride. Because there's 70-something countries in Africa.
Well, I'm
She's
saying
not from all of them. She from
Yeah,
Well,
one.
that's just like saying, that's just like being over in Europe and saying I'm American. That's not saying that I specifically was born and raised in a little small town in Georgia.
Right.
But it's saying that I am a resident of this.
That's a nationality.
country.
But
So
again,
that's
there's
how
no
I take it.
African nation. There's
plenty
nations
of them.
in Africa.
Exactly.
Right.
Do
So
you ask
that's
us,
like saying
do
I'm a
you
North
represent-
American. Right.
Yeah.
If you say I'm a North American, that would be more fitting in comparison to what I'm from.
Because she
the
said, I'm
Americas.
African, so what, Zawinto, Zimbabwe,
Right, break it down,
Zambia,
sir.
Mozambique,
What kind of
where you
language?
from?
What language
Which
you
part of Africa
speaking?
where you from?
But that's an American view of it, and that's and like you're talking about how, like you said, how
I don't know. They always get
like-
mad at us for
like-
saying we're
like you said-
African American.
Yeah,
like
We
you
should be
said,
saying
the
we're
con-
Ghanaian, we're Somalian American, we're Ethiopian. They want us to be specific, but she got away with grouping it. But I'm gonna let you finish because I still
Yeah,
want to say.
well, it's like being in the condescension.
Ooh.
And
Yeah, that was condescending. What she said.
Yeah.
the being American and being overseas, coming across Africans,
Mm.
they did not want, and me either, but they did not want people to think that we were from
The
the same
same,
place. The Africans wanted people to know we're from Africa.
Right, we're not.
It's America.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you use the term African American, it says more like you're an African living in America. And they take offense to that because they don't consider us to be African living in
Right,
America.
right.
Living in America.
Who
They
changed that
consider us
anyway?
to be American.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna accept that, right? Let me go.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I'll accept that and say like this. Coming from New York, right? And my book is The Harlem Shake, right? I respect, my parents met there. I was born across the bridge in the Bronx. I have a different perspective than somebody writing about Harlem who's never been there,
Exactly.
who's not a part of the culture. And I respect that. When I went to promote this book in Harlem, my friends were like, Jeff, you lived in New Jersey your whole life. How you gonna come? You know, you are not, what do you call it? Stealing the culture, what is it? Appropriating Harlem. I said, are you kidding me? I worked at Apollo Theater for 15 years, and my aunt and my cousin, so I had to go through all of that to show that I could write about Harlem before they would let me on their radio show. Okay? Now, in New York, we have had this for years, since I was little. I think with David Dinkins, mayor, or Ed Koch, where they talked about New York as a great what? Melting pot. And a lot of black people, progressive black people, said, no, pump your brakes. David Dinkins said, I like the salad bowl analogy better. And I adopted that. I was in high school, and I said, why do I like the salad bowl analogy? And it relates to black science fiction. I like the salad bowl analogy because one, I like salads, right? But I do like soups too. But in a salad, the lettuce tastes like lettuce. It's crunchy. The tomatoes are soft, and they taste acidic, like tomatoes, right? And the sauce, whatever dressing you put on there. I like that. I don't want us all to become the same. So when I see a Chinese kid, he say, yo, what's up, son? No, wait, I mean, that's cool, but I still want you to understand your culture. I want, when I meet in the town, one of the things that I like about New York is the variety of cultures.
Yes,
but I don't want us all to be so assimilated that we don't have no individuality. Now, why do I say that is important with black sci-fi? Sure, you can say, I'm American, I'm African, I'm just a science fiction writer, right? But there's certain things that stem from our culture that we bring to science fiction that's important. Why? Give you an example. Independence Day stemmed from what's his name? War of the World.
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, all these initials, right? H.G. Wells and Orson Welles furthered it with his radio show that aliens are coming to the world to eat us and destroy us, right?
Of course.
That is a Western concept. We speak Western languages because we were snatched out of our culture and raised, and we think through that. The Asian culture wasn't done the way we are. They came out with a movie on Netflix in June called The Wandering Earth, right? Wandering Earth, beautiful. Take Armageddon, another one. A comic is coming, not a comic. Galactus on stage, right? A comic is coming to Earth, right? The Western world is destroy the threat. Send the bombs up there, get Ben Affleck, let's get them in the scope. Blow it up.
Blow the DC universe. Go ahead.
What did they do in the Wandering Earth? They put engines on the Earth and moved this rotation. It's just like they do in martial arts. What do? Deflect.
Yeah, deflect.
Right, but that's theirs. So when we're looking at the value of cultural uniquenesses, it can be brought to the world of sci-fi that doesn't say only Asians need to watch The Wandering Earth. It's a multicultural, it's as multicultural as Earth is. And if you're into other cultures, like I like to be called a globetrotter, because I like to go to other countries. I like to go to other worlds and see how the people live. I'm curious about it. I don't want everybody to be the same. Sure, I like that they like KRS-One and hip-hop like me, but I still would like them to be a part of their culture. How you cook, how do you eat,
Yeah, but you like individuality because when you go to certain places, you want to go to experience. That's just like you go all the way to China, sit down in a Chinese restaurant, give me a cheeseburger.
Right.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You know, so you get right here in the States when you go to different places you want to see. I like learning about different cultures and different things and how people do things differently. That to me, that's also my mindset. I'm a creative person. I see stuff like that, I'll be like, wow, I'm intrigued. That keeps me going. That keeps my mind going. If I see people everybody's doing the same thing, it's like, you know, I saw that already. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if we're over time, but we're over the time that I thought we would have.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all.
Great job, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Timekeeper didn't even tell us we was 600 seconds over, but thank you all. If you had anything you want to say, you can say it. I'm at booth 32 right next. We're all on the same.
We're all on the same road.
All right, just come check us out.
33.
33.
This back row here, we're all comic books.
Okay,
Those
and
are comic guys.
if you see my stickers, I have a sticker for everybody with my little logo on it. It's Greek. I'm not Greek, but I wrote it in Greek because I'm creative, and it means I love sci-fi. And I appreciate you all. I hope this gets you to love sci-fi as much as we do. All right? Thank you. And also, this is a flyer for my Florida LitCon, so you can get more information online. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, I'm still working it out because I want to be able to do some cross events with the film festival.
Okay.
So I haven't had that meeting yet.
And I actually have marketing specialist.
Oh, okay, good. So when did you get on panel ideas and stuff like that?
Yeah, she wants to do a panel. She wants to do